Get out of here, you ridiculous old woman. Go die somewhere else. This house isn't yours anymore. Those words hit me like stones. I was on the other side of the gate, my suitcase on the ground, the chemotherapy scarf still wrapped around my head. I had just gotten out of the hospital. 3 days of needles, 3 days of poison running through my veins to kill the cancer. And my daughter-in-law Valerie was screaming at me from the window like I was a stranger. Matthew isn't home and I'm not opening it. You're sick, contagious. I don't want my daughter to see you like this, all ugly and bald. Go die somewhere else. My legs trembled. The white gate of my house, the house where I lived for 40 years, was locked with a padlock. The light blue scarf slipped a little from my head. I felt ashamed. I felt the world collapsing. And the worst part is that several neighbors came to their windows. Mrs. Davis, Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Lopez with her grandkids. They were all watching me. They all heard it when Valerie opened the window and threw a bottle of water at me like I was trash. There, so you can't say I let you die of thirst. The bottle landed at my feet and rolled onto the sidewalk. My name is Sarah. I am 57 years old. And what I'm about to tell you is how that afternoon, sitting on the curb in front of my own home, I learned that a mother's love can be blind, but justice always arrives, even if it's late, even if it hurts. Because when my son Matthew arrived an hour later, what he did left the entire neighborhood in silence. But before I tell you that, I need you to understand how I ended up at that locked gate, how a woman like me who gave everything ended up sitting on the street like a beggar. Because this story didn't start that Tuesday. It started 3 years ago when Matthew brought Valerie home for the first time. And I smiled. I opened my arms to her. I welcomed her. I didn't know I was inviting the wolf to sleep in my bed. Sometimes we trust the wrong people. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. 3 years ago, my life was simple. Not perfect, but simple. I woke up every morning to the smell of coffee brewing on the stove, that dark coffee with cinnamon that my mom taught me to make when I was 15. Matthew would always come downstairs in his pajamas, hair all messy, and say, "It smells like Sunday, Mom." Even if it was Monday. We'd have breakfast together at the kitchen table. Sweet bread from Mr. Johnson's bakery, refried beans, scrambled eggs with tomato. We talked about everything and nothing. He'd tell me about his job at the hardware store. I'd tell him about the garden, about the bougainvillea that bloomed thicker every year. Matthew was 32, hardworking, respectful, a little quiet, but a good heart. After his dad died 11 years ago now, it was just him and me. We learned to be a small family, but a strong one. In the afternoons, I'd water the plants, sweep the patio, iron his clothes for the week. He'd come home tired, kick off his dusty boots, and say, "What's for dinner, boss?" Boss. That's what he called me. On Sundays, we went to the market together. He carried the shopping bags. I picked the reddest tomatoes, the firmest zucchini. We'd grab an orange juice at Ms. Rosie's stand. We'd say hi to the neighbors. That was my life. Simple. Quiet. I never imagined anyone could snatch it away from me. One Saturday in April, Matthew came home different. He had a nervous smile. He sat in the living room, looked at me, and said, "Mom, I met someone." My heart jumped, not with fear, with joy, because I thought, finally, my son deserves to be happy. He deserves to have his own family. "What's her name?" I asked, smiling. "Valerie. She's beautiful, Mom. She has a little girl, Chloe, and I want you to meet them." I nodded. I squeezed his hand. "Bring her whenever you want, son. This house will always have room for whoever you love." Those words, those damned words. I wish I had swallowed them. Because 2 weeks later, when Valerie crossed the white gate of my house, holding her little girl's hand and flashing her perfect smile, I didn't see what was really coming. I saw a young, pretty woman with long, dark hair, dressed elegantly polite. "It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Sarah. Matthew has told me so much about you." I made mole for her. I served her hibiscus tea. I played with the little girl in the yard. And when they left, Matthew hugged me and said, "Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd like her." I smiled. But that night, as I washed the dishes, I saw something I should have paid attention to. A crumpled napkin was left on the table, and on it in red lipstick, Valerie had written something that seemed like a joke. "Soon, this house will be mine." I threw it in the trash. I thought it was nonsense. How wrong I was. As I tell this, I think about where you might be listening. Write the name of your city in the comments. The first few months were like walking on glass without realizing it. Valerie came over often, always perfectly styled, always with that smile that showed all her teeth. She brought Chloe, who was a sweet, quiet girl. She was 6 years old and called me Grandma Sarah by the second visit. I adored her. Matthew seemed happy. He'd come home from work and his eyes would shine. The four of us ate together. I cooked chicken tinga red rice tortilla soup. Valerie always said, "Oh, Mrs. Sarah, you cook so deliciously. I never learned." And she'd laugh as if it were funny. But there were small details, tiny cracks. One day I made my usual stovetop coffee. I served the cups at the table. Valerie took a sip, made a face, and said, "Do you always put this much cinnamon in it? It's very strong. At my house we drink American coffee. Milder." Matthew said nothing. Neither did I. But I stopped putting cinnamon in the coffee. Another afternoon I was watering the bougainvillea when Valerie came out to the patio. She crossed her arms and looked at the plants, annoyed. "Don't all these flower petals give you allergies, ma'am? Besides, they take up so much space. If Matthew and I ever get married and come live here, I'd put in artificial turf, cleaner, more modern." The hose almost fell out of my hands. Live here, Matthew had mentioned they were thinking about getting married, yes, but nobody had said anything about moving into my house. That night I asked Matthew in the kitchen, "Son, are you and Valerie planning to live here when you get married?" He looked surprised. "Would it bother you, Mom? It's your house, but she's right. Renting is throwing money away and there's space here. Besides, you're all alone. You're not getting any younger." Not getting any younger. I was 54. I worked at a fabric store, I paid my bills, I tended my garden, and I wasn't getting any younger. "Of course, son, whatever you decide is fine," I replied. But I didn't sleep that night. The months passed. Matthew and Valerie got married in a small ceremony. I paid for half the party. Valerie chose everything, the hall, the flowers, the cake. I just signed the check, and a week later they arrived with all their things. The house stopped smelling like my stovetop coffee. Valerie bought an electric coffee maker and instant coffee. She said it was more practical. I stopped using the stove for breakfast because she preferred cereal and milk. My patio plants were reorganized. Valerie said she needed space for Chloe to play. I ripped out 3 bougainvillea plants with my own hands. And my room, my big room with the view of the garden, became their room. "It's just that Chloe needs her own space, Mrs. Sarah. And you're alone. You don't need such a big room, right?" I moved into the smallest room, the one that had been the storage closet. No window. Matthew carried my boxes. He didn't look me in the eye, and I said nothing, because I thought, it's temporary. It's just until they get settled. Soon everything will go back to normal. But something was keeping me awake. One afternoon, while Valerie was in the bathroom, I saw her cell phone on the table. The screen lit up with a message from her friend Rachel. "Have you managed to get the old woman out yet?" My heart stopped. Valerie came out of the bathroom, saw my face, and smiled. She picked up the phone. "Is something wrong, ma'am?" "Nothing," I replied, and I went to my windowless room. That night, lying in the dark, I understood something. I wasn't going crazy. I wasn't exaggerating. Valerie didn't want to be part of this family. She wanted to take everything. I still wonder if I did the right thing by staying quiet for so long. What about you? Have you ever swallowed your words for fear of losing someone? I learned to walk silently inside my own house. I got up early before everyone else. I made the coffee in silence, the instant coffee that Valerie bought, not mine. I left the kitchen spotless. I left for my job at the fabric store without making a sound. When I returned in the afternoon, the house smelled different, like expensive perfume, like food I hadn't cooked. Valerie ordered takeout almost every day. "It's easier, Mrs. Sarah. Besides, you come home tired from work. We don't want you to strain yourself." It sounded like consideration, but it was displacement. Because little by little, I stopped cooking. I stopped using my own kitchen. I became an uncomfortable guest. One Saturday, I tried to make pozole. It was October, almost the holiday season. I always made pozole in the fall. Matthew looked forward to it every year. I put the big pot on the stove. I bought the hominy, the meat, the chiles. I spent the whole morning cooking. When Valerie came home with Chloe, she walked into the kitchen and wrinkled her nose. "Oh, ma'am, what is that smell? It smells so heavy. I'm on a diet, and Chloe can't eat that much grease. The pediatrician said so." "It's pozole, Valerie, for Matthew. He always—" "Matthew should be careful, too," she interrupted. "He's gaining weight. Besides, I already ordered salads for everyone. Put that in the fridge if you want. But today we're eating light." The pot of pozole sat on the stove cold, untouched. That night, Matthew ate salad in silence. So did I. No one mentioned the pozole. The next day, I threw it in the trash, untouched, and I said nothing, because I thought, it's just food. It's not worth fighting over food. But it wasn't about the food. It was about my place, my voice, my existence. The weeks passed, and Valerie stopped pretending. If I was in the living room watching TV, she'd come in with Chloe and say, "Ma'am, can you watch TV in your room? Chloe wants to watch her cartoons and the screen is bigger in here." I'd get up. I'd go to my windowless room. I'd lie in the dark. If I played music while I cleaned, Valerie would yell from her room, "Mrs. Sarah, turn that down. Chloe is doing homework." I'd turn off the music. I'd clean in silence. One day, Valerie walked into my room without knocking. I was folding laundry. "Ma'am, I need this space to store Chloe's things. Can you put your clothes in boxes? We're going to use this closet for storage." "My closet?" I asked in disbelief. "Yes. You hardly have any clothes anyway. You don't need this much space." And she left. That night, I packed my clothes into cardboard boxes. I cried while I did it. Matthew came home late from work, ate dinner quickly, went to sleep without asking me how I was. When I tried to talk to him one afternoon when we were alone, I said, "Son, I feel like Valerie and we're not doing well. I just wish—" "Mom, please." He cut me off. "Valerie is under a lot of stress with Chloe. It's not easy for her. You have to understand. She's my wife." "I know, but—" "Besides, you've always been very sensitive. Not everything is personal, Mom. Just relax." Sensitive. Exaggerating. Dramatic. I repeated those words to myself every night. Maybe it was me. Maybe I was making things up. Maybe Valerie was just different. Then something happened that chilled my blood. One afternoon I came home early from work because my head was pounding. I came in through the back door without making noise. I heard voices in the living room. Valerie was on the phone. With that friend of hers. Rachel. "Almost, girl. I've almost got her out. The old woman is stubborn, but I make her feel more uncomfortable every day. She doesn't cook anymore. She doesn't even talk. It's just a matter of time before she gets tired and leaves on her own." My heart beat so loud I thought she would hear me. "And Matthew?" asked the voice on the speakerphone. Valerie laughed. A cold laugh. "Matthew does whatever I tell him. I told him his mom is just being too sensitive, that she needs space, and he believes everything I say. When the old woman leaves, this house will be mine. And I didn't even have to do much. She's leaving all by herself." I backed out of the house without her seeing me. I walked down the street aimlessly. I cried on a street corner sitting on the curb like a homeless woman. Because I understood something terrible. Valerie didn't just want my house. She wanted to erase me, and I was letting her. As I tell this, my voice trembles, because I still ask myself, why didn't I scream? Why didn't I fight? Maybe because when you love someone, when you love your son, you'd rather disappear than see him suffer. But that night, lying in my windowless room with my clothes in cardboard boxes, I felt something new, a pain in my chest that wasn't emotional. It was physical. And 2 weeks later, the doctor would give me a name that changed everything. Cancer. Dr. Harris closed the folder and looked at me with that expression all doctors have when they bring bad news. Mrs. Sarah, it's breast cancer. Stage 2. We need to start chemotherapy as soon as possible. I didn't cry in the office. I nodded. I signed papers. I heard words like aggressive treatment, side effects, favorable prognosis if we start now. When I left the hospital, I sat in the waiting room and stared at the floor tiles, white with gray lines. I counted the lines, 1, 2, 3, 100. Then I took out my cell phone and called Matthew. Son, I need to talk to you. I can't right now, Mom. We're doing inventory. Is it urgent? Yes. What happened? I took a deep breath. I have cancer. Silence. What? Breast cancer, son. The doctor says, wait, Mom. Wait. I'm on my way. He hung up. 2 hours later, Matthew arrived at the hospital. He hugged me. He cried on my shoulder. And for the first time in months, I felt like my son was my son again. We're going to get through this, Mom. I'm going to take care of you. I promise. I nodded. I believed him. We got home at dusk. Matthew went in first, calling for Valerie. Honey, I need to talk to you. Valerie came out of the kitchen holding Chloe's hand. She looked at us annoyed. What is it now? Matthew swallowed. My mom. She was diagnosed with cancer. She's going to need chemo. She's going to be sick for a while. I expected a lot of things from Valerie, but not what happened. She was quiet for a few seconds. Then she let go of Chloe's hand and crossed her arms. Cancer, and she's going to be here in the house. Matthew looked at her confused. Of course she's going to be here. It's her house, Valerie. She's my mom. Valerie laughed, a dry, humorless laugh. Matthew, do you know what chemotherapy is? People throw up. They lose their hair. They get weak. Chloe can't see that. It's traumatic for a child. Valerie, besides, she continued as if I wasn't even there. People with cancer have weak immune systems. They can catch anything. What if Chloe gets sick? What if I get sick? No, Matthew, this is too dangerous. I felt the floor open up beneath me. Valerie, please, I said, my voice trembling. I'll be careful. I won't. Mrs. Sarah. She cut me off, looking at me with those cold eyes. It's nothing personal, but you need medical treatment, attention, care, and we can't give that to you. We have our own family to take care of. She is my family, Matthew said, raising his voice. Valerie put a hand on his chest. Honey, think. Think about Chloe. Think about me. Do you really want us to live with a sick person, to expose ourselves? Matthew looked at me, then he looked at Valerie, then at the floor, and he said nothing. That night, Valerie made dinner as if nothing had happened. Chloe ate in silence. Matthew didn't talk either. I went to my room without taking a bite. The next morning, I started chemotherapy. Matthew took me to the hospital. He waited with me. He held my hand while the nurses connected the needles. But when we got home, Valerie had already made changes. My clothes were in black trash bags outside my room. It's for hygiene, Mrs. Sarah, she said without looking at me. I'm going to wash everything with special disinfectant. We can't risk any bacteria. I nodded. Too weak to fight. The next few days were a silent nightmare. I lost my hair. I threw up every morning. I felt so weak I could barely walk from my room to the bathroom. Valerie stopped talking to me. When I entered the kitchen, she left. When I was in the living room, she took Chloe to another room. One day I heard Chloe ask her, Mommy, why is Grandma Sarah bald? Because she's sick, sweetie, and sick people sometimes look ugly. But don't worry, soon she won't be here anymore. My heart broke. I tried to talk to Matthew, but he was working more hours. He came home late, ate dinner, and went to sleep. When I confronted him one night in the kitchen, he said, Mom, please, I'm tired. Valerie is right about some things. You need to rest. You need to be in a quiet place. Don't make this harder. Harder for whom? One afternoon, I found a note on my nightstand. Valerie's handwriting. Mrs. Sarah, I found some information on a rest home for cancer patients. They would take better care of you there. Think about it. A rest home, a nursing home, a place to die far away from them. I ripped the note into pieces. But that night, lying in the dark with the metallic taste of chemo in my mouth and the cold in my bones, I understood. Valerie wasn't going to stop until she got me out. And Matthew wasn't defending me anymore. Then in the midst of the pain and fear, I made a decision. I was going to fight. I was going to survive. Not for me, for my son. Because if I gave up, Valerie would win, and Matthew would live his whole life with a woman capable of throwing his own mother onto the street. But I didn't know the real test was just about to begin. 3 days in the hospital, 3 days of agony. And when I came back, when I knocked on the gate of my own home with my suitcase and my chemo scarf, Valerie would give me the worst answer a daughter-in-law can give. And my son would make the decision that changed everything. That Tuesday morning, Matthew took me to the hospital for my 3rd chemotherapy session. This one would be different, doctor. Harris had explained that they needed to monitor me for 3 full days. A more aggressive chemo, more poison in my veins, more chances of curing me. 3 days, Mom. But you're going to be fine. I'll come see you every afternoon, Matthew told me as he packed my small suitcase. Valerie was in the kitchen. She didn't come out to say goodbye. As we passed the living room, I saw her out of the corner of my eye. She was sitting on the sofa looking at her phone. Chloe was playing on the floor with her dolls. "Bye, Grandma Sarah," the little girl said in her sweet voice. "Goodbye, my love," I answered. My voice cracked. Valerie looked up for just a second. She looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something that chilled me. Relief. She was glad I was leaving. The drive to the hospital was silent. Matthew drove with his eyes fixed on the road. I looked out the window at the streets I knew by heart. Mr. Johnson's bakery, the fabric store where I worked. The park where I used to take Matthew when he was little. Everything was still there, but I felt like I didn't belong anywhere anymore. We arrived at the hospital. They checked me in. They gave me a pale blue gown and took me to a white room that smelled like disinfectant. There were 2 other beds. One was empty. In the other, an older woman slept hooked up to a machine that went beep, beep, beep. "Do you need anything, Mom?" Matthew asked, uncomfortable, his hands in his pockets. "I'm fine, son. Go on. I'll see you tomorrow." He kissed my forehead. He smelled like cologne, like my son, like the little boy who used to hug me when he had nightmares. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, son." He left, and I was alone. The 3 days in the hospital were the longest of my life. The chemotherapy was brutal. I felt the cold liquid entering the IV going down my arm, invading my body like fire and ice at the same time. I threw up until there was nothing left inside me. I shivered, I sweated, I cried without tears. The nurses were kind. They gave me water. They adjusted my pillows. They told me it was normal that my body was fighting. But at night, when the lights went out and only the beep, beep, beep of the machines remained, I thought about my house, my windowless room, my uprooted bougainvillea, the stovetop coffee nobody drank anymore. Matthew came to visit the first day. He came on his lunch break. He brought me gelatin and a juice box. He sat in the chair next to my bed and held my hand. "How do you feel?" "Tired, son, but okay. The doctor says you're responding well to the treatment." "Yes." Silence. "Mom, Valerie asked me to talk to you about something." My heart sped up. "About what?" Matthew looked out the window. He wouldn't look at me. She thinks that when you get out of the hospital, it would be better if you found a quieter place where they can take better care of you." She looked up some really nice facilities with nurses with gardens. "Nursing homes," I said quietly. "No, Mom, they're not nursing homes. They're specialized places for—" "Matthew," I interrupted him. My voice sounded firmer than I expected. "Look at me." He turned his head slowly. "Do you want me to leave the house?" "Mom, it's not that. Do you—" He was quiet, and that silence was worse than any answer. "I just want you to be okay, Mom. And Valerie is right about some things. The house is very crowded. Chloe needs space. You need rest. And we don't know how to take care of you properly." I pulled my hand away from his. "I understand. Mom, you can go, Matthew. Thanks for coming." "Don't be angry, please." "I'm not angry. I'm tired. go." He stood up, hesitated for a moment, then he walked out of the room without looking back. And I stared at the white ceiling, feeling something inside me break for good. The second day, Matthew didn't come. He sent a text. "Sorry, Mom. Swamped at work. See you tomorrow." The third day, he didn't come either. No message. The nurses disconnected my IV. They took the needle out of my arm. They discharged me with a bag full of medication and a sheet of instructions. "Is someone coming for you, Mrs. Sarah?" the nurse asked. "Yes, my son." I lied. I called Matthew. No answer. I called 3 more times. Nothing. Finally, I called a cab. The taxi stopped in front of the white gate of my house at 4 in the afternoon. A cloudy Tuesday. The air smelled like rain. I paid the driver with the last few dollars I had in my wallet. I got out with my small suitcase. I was wearing my light blue scarf on my head. My pants were loose. I had lost weight. I felt weak, fragile. But I was home. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I rang again. Then I heard footsteps inside. Valerie's voice shouting, "I'm coming! I'm coming!" The second-floor window opened. Valerie stuck her head out. She saw me down there with my suitcase, my scarf shaking from the cold and weakness, and she smiled. "Mrs. Sarah, what are you doing here?" I froze. What was I doing here at my own house? "I just got out of the hospital, Valerie. Can you please open the gate?" "Oh, ma'am." She sighed, as if I were asking for an impossible favor. "It's just that Matthew isn't home, and I can't open it for you." "What do you mean you can't, Valerie, please?" "It's just that Chloe is doing homework, and you know with the treatment you could bring in bacteria. The doctor told us we had to be careful." "Valerie, I'm sick. I just got out of the hospital. Please." Her face changed. The fake smile disappeared, and what was left was pure contempt. "That's exactly why, ma'am. You're sick, contagious, weak, and I am not going to expose my family. Do you understand me? My family." "But this is my house, Valerie." She laughed, a cruel, loud laugh that the neighbors could hear. "Your house. This house belongs to Matthew, and Matthew is my husband, so this house is mine, and I decide who comes in and who doesn't." "Valerie, please." My voice was shaking. The tears started to fall. "I'm cold. I'm weak. Just let me in." "No!" she screamed. "Get out of here, you ridiculous old woman. Go die somewhere else. This house isn't yours anymore." I stood there frozen. My legs trembled. "Matthew isn't home and I'm not opening it. You're sick, contagious. I don't want my daughter to see you like this, all ugly and bald. Go die somewhere else." Then, as if I were trash, she opened the window all the way and threw a bottle of water at me. It landed at my feet and rolled onto the sidewalk. "There. So you can't say I let you die of thirst. Now get out of here." And she slammed the window shut. I just stood there staring at the white gate, the gate of my house, the house where I lived for 40 years, where I raised my son, where I planted bougainvillea, where I made coffee on the stove every morning. And now I was outside, rejected, humiliated. I heard movement around me, doors opening, windows, voices. Mrs. Davis came out onto her porch. Mr. Henderson peeked out his window. Mrs. Lopez was on the corner with her grandkids. Everyone was watching me. They had heard everything. The entire neighborhood had just witnessed my humiliation. I felt my legs give out. I sat down on the curb in front of my own house. With my suitcase by my side and the chemo scarf on my head, the water bottle was still there, rolling like a handout. I didn't cry. I had no tears left. I just sat, and I waited. Because I knew Matthew would be home. He had to come home. He was my son, my only son. He couldn't let this happen. He couldn't leave me out here like an abandoned dog. Right? The minutes passed. They turned into an hour. The sky grew dark. A light drizzle started to fall. Mrs. Davis came out of her house with a sweater and a cup of hot tea. "Mrs. Sarah, come to my house, please." I shook my head. "Thank you, Mrs. Davis. But my son is coming. He'll be here." She looked at me with pity and went back inside. Mr. Henderson brought me a blanket. He put it over my shoulders without saying a word. He just shook his head sadly. Mrs. Lopez came over with her grandkids. "Do you want us to call someone, Mrs. Sarah, the police?" "No," I answered. "Just wait with me. My son is on his way." But inside, deep inside, something had changed. Because as I sat there getting wet from the drizzle, my chemo scarf soaked the blanket over my shoulders and my suitcase by my side, I understood something that shattered me. Valerie wasn't acting alone. Matthew knew. Matthew was allowing it. Matthew had abandoned me. My son. The boy I raised, the boy I loved, the boy I gave everything to, had left me to die in the street. And that truth hurt more than any cancer, more than any chemotherapy. Because you can survive a disease, but you can't survive the betrayal of your own blood. In the distance I heard a car engine. I stood up with difficulty. It was him. It had to be him. The car parked in front of the house. Matthew got out in his work uniform, tired, with 3 days of stubble. He saw me. He saw the suitcase. He saw the wet scarf. He saw the neighbors watching. And in his eyes, I saw something I didn't expect. Not surprise, not anger. He knew I would be there. He knew what Valerie had done, and he had come home anyway. But not to rescue me, to make a decision. Matthew got out of the car slowly, as if every step weighed 1,000 pounds. He looked at me. He looked at my soaked scarf. He looked at the suitcase thrown on the sidewalk. He looked at the blanket Mr. Henderson had given me. He looked at the neighbors watching us from their doors, from their windows. And his face changed. It wasn't the face of a tired man coming home from work. It was the face of the little boy. The one I used to comfort. The little boy who cried when he fell. The little boy who looked for me when he was scared. "Mom," his voice broke. "What are you doing out here?" I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. I just shivered. From cold, from pain, from humiliation. Mrs. Davis approached Matthew. She put a hand on his arm. "Son, your wife kicked her out. She left her in the street. She screamed at her to go die somewhere else. The whole neighborhood heard it." Matthew closed his eyes. He clenched his fists. "How long has she been here?" "Over an hour," Mr. Henderson replied. "In the rain, sick, waiting for you." Matthew took a deep breath. Then he walked towards me. He knelt on the wet sidewalk in front of me and took my hands. "Forgive me, Mom. Forgive me." I couldn't speak. I just looked at him, my son, the man who had let this happen. "I knew," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I knew what Valerie was doing. I knew how she treated you. And I looked the other way. I convinced myself you were exaggerating, that you were just being too sensitive, because it was easier. It was easier than confronting her." He pressed my hands to his forehead. He cried like a child. "Forgive me, Mom. I'm a coward, a terrible son, but this ends now." He stood up. He wiped his tears, and he walked to the gate. He rang the doorbell, hard, once, twice, 3 times. The second-floor window opened. Valerie stuck her head out with that mocking smile. "You're home, honey. Give me a minute, I'll come down and—" Her voice died when she saw Matthew's expression. "Come down. Now." His voice sounded like I had never heard it before. Cold, firm, broken. Valerie disappeared from the window. Seconds later, the gate opened. She was standing there, with her perfect hair, her expensive clothes, her flawless makeup, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Honey, thank goodness you're home. Your mom just showed up out of nowhere and I—" "Oh, shut up," Matthew interrupted her. Valerie blinked, confused. "What?" I said. "Shut up." Matthew walked into the house without looking at her. I stayed outside, still on the sidewalk, watching. The neighbors, too. Mrs. Davis, Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Lopez, all witnesses to what was about to happen. From inside I heard Matthew's voice loud and clear. "Chloe, go to your room, now." The girl obeyed. I heard her little footsteps running up the stairs. Then Matthew came out of the house carrying something. 2 large suitcases. He threw them onto the patio. "Matthew, what are you doing?" Valerie followed him. her smile gone, her voice nervous. He went back inside. He came out with more clothes, shoes, bags. He piled them up on the patio. "Matthew, stop! Have you gone crazy?" Valerie tried to stop him, grabbing his arm. He shook her off violently. "Crazy!" He spun towards her, his eyes red. "Crazy! You left my mother in the street, sick, on chemotherapy. You kicked her out like a dog. She's a danger to Chloe," Valerie screamed. "She has cancer. She could infect us." "Cancer is not contagious, Valerie." Matthew's voice echoed down the street. "You know that. You've known it from the beginning. But you wanted her out. You wanted to keep the house. I read your texts. I read all of them." Valerie turned pale. "I don't know what you're talking about. Almost got her out, girl. She's almost gone." Matthew recited her own words. "It's just a matter of time before she leaves on her own. That's what you wrote to Rachel. And more, so much more. You thought I was an idiot, that I wouldn't notice." "Matthew, please." Valerie tried to get closer, with fake tears. "I just wanted what's best for us." "Liar." Matthew pointed to where I was. "Look at her. Look at what you did to her. She is sick. She just got out of the hospital, and you left her in the street, in the rain." Valerie looked at me, and for a second I saw something in her eyes. Not regret, rage at being caught. "She's your mother, Matthew. She'll always be your mother. But I am your wife. You have to choose." Matthew fell silent. The silence was so heavy that even the neighbors stopped breathing. Then Matthew did something I will never forget. He took off his wedding ring, slowly, as if every millimeter hurt. He held it in his hand, he looked at it, and then he looked at Valerie. "I already chose." And he threw it on the ground. The ring bounced on the patio tiles with a metallic sound. It rolled. It stopped at Valerie's feet. "Get your things," Matthew said in a hollow voice, "and get out. Now." Valerie froze, incredulous. "What? You heard me. Get out of my house. You are no longer welcome here." "You can't do this!" Valerie screamed. "I'm married to you. I have rights. This house is mine too." "This house," Matthew said with a terrifying calm, "is in my mother's name. It always has been. My father left it to her. Not to me. To her. So no. You have no rights here. You are a guest, and I'm asking you to leave." Valerie opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her perfect face crumpled. Her makeup started to run with tears of rage. "And Chloe," she asked, her voice trembling, "are you going to take my daughter from me?" Matthew shook his head. "Chloe is your daughter. She goes with you. I would never do to a mother what you did to mine. But listen to me, Valerie. If you ever come near my mom again, if you ever speak to her again, you will regret it." He turned around and walked towards me. He helped me up from the curb. He grabbed my suitcase. He took the wet blanket off me and put his work jacket over my shoulders. "Let's go home, Mom." And he guided me toward the gate. From behind I heard sobs, not of sadness, of fury. Valerie was crying tears of rage, of humiliation, because the whole neighborhood had seen her fall, Mrs. Davis started to clap, slowly. Then Mr. Henderson. Then Mrs. Lopez. Then other neighbors who had come out. A slow, solemn applause, like a funeral, or like a resurrection. We went into the house. Matthew closed the gate behind us. And outside I heard the sound of Valerie dragging her suitcases, screaming, calling someone on the phone, crying. It was 2 hours before she left. When the noise finally stopped, Matthew and I were in the kitchen. He had put water on to boil. I was sitting in my usual chair, the one in the corner, the one nobody else used. The house smelled different, cold, empty, but it was ours again. Matthew served 2 cups. He looked in the pantry and found the can of coffee I had saved. My stovetop coffee, my cinnamon, my brown sugar. He made it just like I had taught him years ago. And when he put the cup in front of me, the smell hit me like a memory, like a hug, like a homecoming. "It smells like Sunday, Mom," Matthew said, his voice broken. And we both cried. We cried for everything we had lost, for all the stolen days, for all the words we didn't say, for the time we would never get back, but we also cried with relief, because even though it hurt, even though we had lost so much, we still had each other. That night Matthew took me to my old room, the one Valerie had taken. He changed the sheets. He removed all her things. He opened the windows to let the fresh air in. "This is your room, Mom. It always was. Forgive me for forgetting." I lay down in my bed, after months of sleeping in that windowless closet, and for the first time in a long, long time, I slept in peace. But I knew this wasn't over, because when you kick out someone like Valerie, when you take away everything she thought was hers, that person doesn't just disappear. She comes back, and when she comes back, she'll bring all her venom with her. But I wasn't afraid anymore, because I had learned something that night sitting on the curb in the rain staring at my own locked house. You can lose everything. Your house, your health, your dignity. But if you don't lose your truth, if you don't lose your value, then nothing and no one can destroy you. And Valerie had just learned that truth. Life has its own way of serving justice, and it was just starting to collect its debts. The first few days after Valerie left were strange, like waking up from a nightmare and not being sure if it's really over. Matthew and I moved around the house carefully, as if we were walking on broken glass. He woke up early. He made the stovetop coffee without me asking. I cleaned the house slowly, getting rid of every trace of Valerie. Her perfumes, her magazines, her pictures. But we didn't talk much, because there was so much to say, neither of us knew where to start. A week after that afternoon in the rain, Matthew and I were having breakfast when his cell phone rang. He looked at it, his face tensed. "It's her. Valerie." He nodded. He declined the call. It rang again, once, twice, 10 times. "Answer it," I finally said. "You need to talk to her, for Chloe, for the paperwork, for everything." Matthew hesitated, but finally answered. He put it on speaker. "What do you want, Valerie?" Her voice sounded different, soft, sweet, the voice she used when she wanted to manipulate. "Matthew, honey, we need to talk. Please. This has all been a terrible misunderstanding. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking clearly. I like your mom. I really do." "Don't talk to my son like that," I interrupted. My voice was firm, clear. "And don't mention me. You and I have nothing left to talk about." Silence on the other end. Then Valerie's voice changed. It turned cold, venomous. "Oh, I see. You've already brainwashed him, haven't you, Mrs. Sarah? You've already turned him against me." "Nobody brainwashed anyone," I replied calmly. "He saw what you did. The whole neighborhood saw. You dug your own grave." "This isn't over," Valerie hissed. "I'm going to fight for my rights. I'm going to fight for that house. I'm going to fight for—" "The house is in my name," I interrupted her. "It always has been. My husband left it to me 11 years ago. The deed is clear, legal, in my name. You have no rights to it, and you know it." Another silence. Then I'll fight for alimony. Matthew has to support me and Chloe. I'm going to hire a lawyer. I'm going— "Do it," Matthew said, his voice tired. "Talk to your lawyer. I'll talk to mine. And we will arrange things for Chloe legally. But you and I are done, and there's no going back." He hung up. He stared at the phone. Then he looked at me. "Do you think I did the right thing, Mom?" I got up. I walked over to him. I put a hand on his shoulder. "You did the right thing, son. It's going to hurt, but the right thing almost always does." And he was right. It did hurt. The following weeks were a storm of calls and texts. First came the threats, then the crying, then the begging. She said she was sorry, that she had changed, that Chloe was asking for her dad. Matthew always answered the same way. "Talk to my lawyer." But I saw how much it weighed on him. I saw him looking at pictures of Chloe. I saw how he sometimes woke up in the middle of the night and sat in the living room in the dark with his head in his hands. One night I came downstairs and found him like that. I sat next to him. "You miss her." It wasn't a question. "Chloe, Yes, Valerie, no. But it hurts me to know I did that to a child, separated her from me. You didn't do anything, son. Valerie made her choices, and the consequences are hers. But Chloe isn't to blame. No, she's not. And when she's old enough to understand, she will know the truth. For now, the best thing you can do is be okay, be strong, for when she needs you. Matthew nodded, wiped his tears. How do you do it, Mom? How do you not hate her, after everything she did to you? I was quiet for a moment, thinking. Because hate is a poison you drink hoping the other person dies, and I already have enough poison in my body with this chemotherapy. I'm not going to let Valerie poison my soul too. Matthew hugged me, and we cried together in the dark living room. A month later, while I was at my chemo session, I got a call from Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Sarah, Valerie came to the house. My heart leaped. What happened? She came with Chloe. She banged on the gate, yelled that she wanted to talk to Matthew, but he wasn't here. The little girl was crying. She said she wanted to see her daddy. It was sad, ma'am. Are they gone? Yes. But she left a letter. She slipped it under the gate. Do you want me to get it for you? Yes, please. Thank you, Mrs. Davis. When I got home that afternoon, Matthew was already there. He had the letter in his hands, a white envelope, Valerie's perfect handwriting. Did you read it? I asked. He shook his head. I don't know if I want to. Then don't. But we both knew he had to, even if it hurt. Matthew opened the envelope. He read it in silence. His expression didn't change. When he finished, he folded the letter and left it on the table. What does it say? I asked. She's pregnant. The world stopped. What? She says she's pregnant. 2 months. That it's mine. That she needs me to come back. That a family shouldn't be separated. That Chloe needs her little brother or sister. He fell silent, closed his eyes. Is it possible? I asked in a low voice. Yes, the dates. They line up. I sat down in the chair. I felt the air leave my chest. Another baby. Another child of Matthew's. Another tie to Valerie. What are you going to do, son? Matthew didn't answer right away. He stared at the letter. Then he looked at me. I don't know, Mom. I really don't know. And for the first time since that afternoon in the rain, I saw fear in his eyes. Fear of making the wrong decision. Fear of regret. Fear of losing another child. If she's pregnant, if it's my child, I have to be responsible, right? Being responsible doesn't mean getting back together with her. I answered, you can be a good father without being her husband. But she'll say I have to. She'll say I have to come back. For the baby, for Chloe. And you have to decide what is right, not what is easy. What is right. Matthew ran his hands over his face. Tired, broken. What would you do, Mom? I looked at him. My son, the man I had defended, the man who had chosen to pull me off the street instead of staying silent. I would talk to her. I would confirm the pregnancy with a doctor. And if it's real, if it's yours, I would give her child support. I would give her support. But I wouldn't go back. Because going back to someone who hurt you, who hurt your mother, who lied and manipulated, that's not love, son. That's fear. And children don't need parents who are afraid. They need parents with dignity. Matthew nodded slowly. And if I regret it later, then you'll regret it. But at least it will be your decision, not hers. That night, Matthew called Valerie. He told her he wanted to confirm the pregnancy with a doctor, that he would go with her to the appointment, that if it was real, he would fulfill his responsibility, but that he was not coming back to her, that the marriage was over. Valerie cried. She screamed. She threatened. But eventually, she agreed. 2 weeks later, Matthew went to the doctor's appointment with Valerie. I stayed home, waiting, praying. When he came back, his eyes were red. "Well," I asked, "it's real. She's pregnant. The doctor confirmed she's 11 weeks. It's mine." He sat down on the sofa, put his face in his hands. "I'm going to be a father again, and my child is going to grow up without me in the house, just like I grew up without my dad." I sat next to him. I took his hands. "Your father didn't choose to die, son. That was fate. But you are choosing to live with dignity. You are choosing not to be an accomplice to someone who causes harm, and that is very different. That baby is going to have a father, a good father, a father who visits, who provides, who loves, but a father who also respects himself, and that is the best lesson you can give." Matthew hugged me. He cried on my shoulder like he did when he was little. "Thank you, Mom, for not judging me, for being here. I will always be here, son, always." The months passed. My chemotherapy ended. I lost all my hair, I lost weight, I lost strength. But I didn't lose hope. Matthew kept his word. He paid child support to Valerie. He visited Chloe twice a week. He went to the pregnancy appointments. But he didn't go back to her. Valerie tried everything: tears, threats, manipulation. One time she even came to the house with Chloe crying at the gate, saying she had no money for food, that they were going to be on the street. Mrs. Davis called me, told me. Matthew went out. He gave her money. He told her to seek help from her family, and he closed the gate. Valerie screamed. She cursed. She threatened to take the children away. But she left, because she finally understood something. Matthew was no longer the man she could control. He was no longer the man who chose peace over truth. He was a man who had learned, however late, to stand up for what was right. And I also learned something in those months. I learned that justice doesn't always come with screaming. It doesn't always come with revenge. Sometimes it comes with silence, with dignity, with the simple decision to not let the poison of others infect you. One afternoon, 6 months after that night in the rain, I was sitting on the patio. My bougainvillea had grown back. I had replanted them one by one, and now they were blooming thicker than ever, as if they too had been resurrected. Mrs. Davis passed by the fence. "Mrs. Sarah, how are you?" "Good, Mrs. Davis. Just enjoying the sun." She hesitated. Then she said, "Did you hear?" "Hear what?" "About Valerie. She left the neighborhood. They say she went to live with her mother in Chicago. She left the area, took Chloe." My heart sank, not with joy, with sadness, for Matthew, for Chloe, for the baby on the way. "Does Matthew know?" "Yes." She told him, said she needed to be with her family, that she only had bad memories here. I nodded. I understood. Valerie didn't leave because she wanted to. She left because she couldn't stand the looks from the neighbors. She couldn't stand the weight of her own shame. I didn't kick her out. Matthew didn't kick her out. Her own conscience kicked her out. And that is the most powerful justice of all. That night, Matthew came home. He hugged me. He cried a little. But he also smiled. "She's gone, Mom." "I know. Do you think I did the right thing?" I looked him in the eyes. "My son, my only son, you did the right thing, and someday your children will understand. And if they don't, then you will have lived with the truth, and that is enough." I made stovetop coffee. We sat in the kitchen, like before, like it always should have been. And as the smell of cinnamon filled the house, I understood something that gave me peace. I didn't need Valerie to suffer for me to be happy. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to see her fall. I just needed this: my house, my son, my coffee, my bougainvillea. And the certainty that I had done the right thing, even though it hurt, even though it was hard, even though the road was long. Because in the end, life always collects its debts. And I wasn't in debt to anyone. A year passed. Then 2. My hair grew back. Not like before. Whiter. Thinner. But it came back. And with it my strength. The doctors said the cancer was in remission. that I had responded well to the treatment, that I was a survivor. But I didn't feel like a survivor. I felt like someone who had died and been born again. I went back to work at the fabric store. Mrs. Linda, the owner, welcomed me back with tears and a hug that squeezed the air out of me. "Mrs. Sarah, I thought I'd never see you again." "I'm here, Mrs. Linda, closer than ever." I laughed, and it was the first time in a long time that my laugh sounded real. Matthew kept living with me. We never again talked about him leaving. The house was ours, and that was good. He visited Chloe in Chicago once a month. Valerie had given birth to a little boy, Daniel. Matthew met him when he was 2 weeks old. He showed me pictures, a beautiful baby, with my son's eyes. "And Valerie?" I asked. "She's different, quieter, thinner. She seems tired." I didn't say anything, but I felt a pang, not of joy, of sadness, because when someone falls, even if they deserved it, there's always something sad in that fall. 6 months later, on a Saturday afternoon, Mrs. Davis knocked on my door. She had a look on her face. "Mrs. Sarah, did you hear what Mrs. Davis, about Valerie? She's begging for money in the markets in Chicago, with both kids. Someone from here saw her, says she's panhandling." I went cold. Panhandling? But Matthew sends her money, every month, on time. Well, they say it's not enough, that her mom kicked her out of the house, that she's living in some rented room with a leaky roof, that the kids are skinny. My God. "I'm just telling you so you know, in case she comes back and asks you for help." That night I told Matthew. His face went pale. "Mom, I send her $500 a month. That's enough for rent and food. What is she spending the money on?" "I don't know, son, but you need to find out, for your children." The next day, Matthew flew to Chicago without telling her. He came back 3 days later. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept. He sat at the kitchen table. I served him coffee. I waited. I found her mom. She's living in one room in a tenement building. Small, damp. The kids are sleeping on a mattress on the floor. Chloe has a cough. Daniel has a bad diaper rash. His voice broke. I asked her what she spent the money on, and she confessed. She spent it on clothes, on makeup, on going out with friends. She said she needed to feel good, that being locked up with the kids was driving her crazy, that she needed to live. Dear God. I told her that's over. From now on I'm sending groceries directly, and I'm paying the rent to her landlord, not to her. And if she keeps this up, I'm going to take the kids. What did she say? She cried. She begged for forgiveness, said she was depressed, that her mom won't talk to her, that her friends left her, that everyone abandoned her, that she's alone. Matthew looked at me with tired eyes, and I felt sorry for her mom. After everything she did to me, after everything she did to you, I felt sorry for her. I took his hand. It's because you have a good heart, son, and that's a good thing. But pity doesn't mean getting back with her. It means helping her intelligently, without putting yourself at risk, without putting us at risk. He nodded. I told her she can come back to this area, that I'll get her a job, that I'll rent her a small apartment, but far away from us, and on the condition that she goes to therapy, that she learns to be a mother, that she stops thinking only of herself. Did she accept? She said she'd think about it, that Chicago holds bad memories, that her mom blames her for everything, that... He paused, took a deep breath. Her mom told her something, Mom. Something that hit me. What? She said, "You threw your mother-in-law out onto the street when she was sick, and now you expect me to help you? You reap what you sow, Valerie. You reap what you sow." I sat in silence, feeling the weight of those words. Life collecting its debts. Valerie came back to our town 2 months later. Matthew got her a job at a laundromat. He rented her an apartment about 2 miles from our house. He helped her with basic furniture, but he set clear rules. No unannounced visits, no manipulation, no drama. Valerie agreed to everything, because she had no choice. I never saw her. I didn't look for her. and she didn't look for me. But I heard about her from the neighbors. Because in a small town, gossip travels. Mrs. Davis told me Valerie was working 12-hour days, that she came home exhausted, that the kids stayed with a neighbor who charged her for babysitting. Mr. Henderson told me he saw her at the market, that she was buying the cheapest things, bruised tomatoes, day-old bread, that she looked gaunt. Mrs. Lopez told me Valerie tried to make friends in the new neighborhood, but when people found out who she was, what she had done, they turned their backs on her. Everyone knows her here, Mrs. Sarah. Everyone knows what she did to you, and nobody wants to be around someone like that. I listened. I nodded. But I didn't feel joy. Just emptiness. Because when you see someone fall that low, even if they deserved it, you realize something. Revenge tastes like nothing. It tastes like ash. A year later, on a December afternoon, I was on the patio, watering my bougainvillea, when Chloe appeared at the gate. She was 9 years old, taller, thinner, with the sad eyes of someone who has seen too much. "Hi, Grandma Sarah," she said in a small voice. My heart skipped. I hadn't seen her in almost 3 years. "Chloe, my girl." I opened the gate. She came in slowly, as if she were afraid. "Does your mom know you're here?" "No, she's at work. I snuck away. I wanted to see you." I hugged her, and she cried in my arms. "I miss you, Grandma. I miss this house. I miss when you made pozole. I miss when my dad smiled. I miss when we were happy." I took her inside. I made her hot chocolate. I gave her sweet bread. She sat at the kitchen table in the same spot she always sat when she was little, and she told me everything. She told me how Valerie cried every night, how she said everything was my fault, that I had taken Matthew from her, that I had destroyed her family. "But I remember, Grandma," Chloe said, her voice firm. "I remember when my mom yelled at you. I remember when she threw you out. I remember everything, and I know it wasn't your fault." Tears streamed down her face. "My mom says you're evil, but I know you're not. I know you were always good to me, always." I held her. I rocked her. I sang her a song I used to sing to her when she was a baby. When Matthew came home, he found Chloe asleep on the sofa, her head in my lap. "Mom, how?" "She came alone. She wanted to see us." Matthew knelt beside his daughter. He stroked her hair. "I can't let her live like this, Mom. I can't." "I know, son. I'm going to fight for custody. I can't leave my children with someone who is so broken." "Are you sure?" "Yes, completely." And he did. Months later, with the help of a lawyer with testimony from neighbors with proof of neglect, Matthew won custody of Chloe. Valerie didn't fight much. She said she couldn't handle it all, that it was too much, that she needed time for herself. Daniel stayed with her. He was still very little. But Matthew had regular visits. Chloe came to live with us, and the house was filled with laughter again. The months passed. Valerie kept working at the laundromat, kept living in her small apartment, kept being alone. One afternoon I saw her from a distance at the market. She was buying vegetables. She looked older, much older than she really was. Her hair was dull, her clothes were worn, her shoulders were slumped. She saw me. Our eyes met. For 1 second I saw something in her eyes. Not hate, not rage, shame, regret, defeat. She looked down. She kept walking. And I kept walking my way, because I understood something that day. Valerie didn't need my forgiveness. She needed her own. And that was a path only she could walk. That night at dinner, Chloe asked me, "Grandma, do you hate my mom?" The question took me by surprise. Matthew stopped eating, waiting for my answer. "No, my girl, I don't hate her." "Why not? She did horrible things to you." "Because hate destroys you from the inside. And I've had enough destruction. Now I just want peace." "But she was mean to you." "Yes, she was very mean. But look at where she is now, and look at where I am. Life collected its debt. I didn't have to do anything. Chloe thought for a moment. My mom told me once that you cursed her, that it was your fault everything went wrong for her. I shook my head. I never cursed her, my girl. She cursed herself with her own decisions. When you treat people badly, when you lie, when you hurt, life gives it back to you. Always. You don't need witches or curses. Life takes care of it. Chloe nodded slowly. And did you forgive her? I was quiet, thinking carefully about the answer. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or trusting again. Forgiving means letting go of the anger. It means stop carrying the weight of resentment. I let go of that weight a long time ago, and I feel lighter, freer. Your mom is still carrying a lot of weight, and only she can let it go. Matthew looked at me with shining eyes. You're wise, Mom. I'm not wise, son. I'm just old, and old people learn that life is too short to waste on hate. A year later at Christmas, I received a letter. There was no return address. Trembling handwriting. I recognized that handwriting. Valerie. Matthew saw me with the envelope in my hands. Are you going to read it? I don't know. Can I read it first to see what it says? I shook my head. No. If it's addressed to me, I'll read it. I opened the envelope. I took out the paper, and I read. Mrs. Sarah, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need to write it, because if I don't, I think I'm going to go crazy. I was cruel to you. So cruel, and I have no excuse. I can't say I was confused or that I didn't know what I was doing. I knew. I knew perfectly. I wanted your house. I wanted to take your place. I wanted you to disappear, and I worked every day to make it happen. When I saw you on the street sick in the rain, I felt satisfied. I felt powerful, like I had won. I didn't know that would be the last time I'd ever feel that way. Since that day, my life has become a living hell. Not because of you. You never did anything to me. Because of me. Because of my decisions. My mom despises me. My friends turned their backs on me. The whole neighborhood points at me. Matthew looks at me with pity. Chloe asks me why I was so mean to you. Daniel will grow up wondering why his dad doesn't live with us. And I am alone. Completely alone. I once told you that you were a sensitive old woman. Now I understand. I was the sensitive one. I was the weak one. I was the one who was afraid. You survived cancer. I'm not sure I can survive this. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that you were right. Life collects its debts. And I am paying for every single one. I hope one day I can look in the mirror without disgust. Valerie. I folded the letter. I put it back in the envelope. I stared out the window, towards the patio, towards my blooming bougainvillea. Matthew was waiting. What does it say? That she's paying her debts. Are you going to answer? I thought about it for a long time. No, I finally said. There's nothing to say. She wrote that letter for herself, not for me. She needed to get it out, and she did. Answering her would just reopen a door that needs to stay closed. Matthew nodded. Are you keeping it? Yes, I'll keep it. Not as a trophy, as a reminder that people who cause harm also suffer, and that suffering is its own punishment. I put the letter in a drawer, along with other things from the past, things I no longer use but can't throw away. And I went on with my life, because I had learned the most important lesson of all. Justice doesn't need our hands. Life takes care of it, always. Valerie didn't need me to punish her. She punished herself. She didn't need me to hate her. She hated herself enough. And I didn't need anything from her anymore. Not apologies, not repentance, not revenge. I just needed what I had. My house, my son, my granddaughter, my bougainvillea, my stovetop coffee, my peace. And that was more than enough. Life always collects its debts, and I was no longer in debt to anyone. It's been 5 years since that afternoon in the rain. 5 years since I sat on that curb, sick, rejected, humiliated in front of the whole neighborhood. Sometimes it feels like another life, another woman, another me. Today I am 62 years old. My hair is completely white now. I wear it short just how I like it. No scarves, no hiding. The cancer scars are still there, on my body, in my memory, but they don't define me anymore. Every morning I wake up in my room, the big room, with the view of the patio, where I always should have been. I open the curtains, and the first thing I see is my bougainvillea, thicker than ever, more beautiful than ever. I go down to the kitchen. I put the coffee on the stove. The smell of cinnamon fills the house. Matthew comes down in his pajamas, hair all messy. Smells like Sunday mom, even if it's Wednesday. Chloe comes running down. She's 14 now, tall, beautiful, with her father's smart eyes and the strength I hope I taught her. "Good morning, Grandma Sarah. Did you make pancakes?" "Of course, my girl. We eat breakfast together, every day, like a family, and as I watch them laugh, talk, argue about silly things, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Wholeness. The fabric store where I work became my refuge. Mrs. Linda made me a partner 2 years ago. Now I don't just sell fabric. I also teach sewing classes on Saturdays. Women of all ages come. Young women who want to learn a skill, older women looking for company, and I teach them more than just sewing. I teach them not to let anyone take their place, not to become invisible in their own homes, not to apologize for existing. One of my students, Rachel, not Valerie's friend, a different Rachel, younger, told me recently, "Mrs. Sarah, my mother-in-law, is mean to me. She says I don't know how to cook, that my house is dirty, that I'm not good enough for her son. What do I do?" I looked at her. I saw in her eyes the same fear I once had. "What do you want to do, Rachel?" "I don't know. I don't want my husband to have to choose between his mom and me." "Then don't make him choose, but don't make yourself invisible either. Set boundaries, with respect but firmly, because if you don't respect yourself, no one else will." Rachel cried. Then she nodded. 6 months later she came back, different, more confident. I talked to my mother-in-law, Mrs. Sarah. I told her I respect her, but that I need her to respect me too. And it worked. She's not mean to me anymore. And my husband is backing me up. I hugged her, and I felt that everything I went through, all the pain, all the humiliation, was worth it if at least one woman learned not to stay silent. On Sundays I go to church, not because I'm very religious, but because I like the silence of the church, the peace, the feeling that there is something bigger than my problems, my pain, my story. One Sunday after service, Mrs. Lopez approached me. "Mrs. Sarah, can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Mrs. Lopez." "How did you manage to forgive Valerie? Because I've been holding on to a grudge against my sister for years, and it's killing me inside, but I don't know how to let it go." We sat on a bench outside the church. The sun was high. It was warm. "I didn't forgive Valerie for her," I told her. "I forgave her for me. Because carrying hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I already had enough poison in my body. I wasn't going to let my soul get poisoned too." "But how do you do it? How do you forget?" "You don't forget, you never forget, but you let go. You decide that person no longer has power over you, that they can't hurt you anymore, that they no longer take up space in your mind, and little by little, the weight gets lighter." Mrs. Lopez wiped her tears. "And you don't feel anything when you see her." "Honestly, I hardly ever see her. Valerie lives her life, I live mine. Sometimes we pass each other at the market. We nod, that's it. There's no drama, no hate, just indifference. And that is more liberating than any forgiveness." Mrs. Lopez hugged me. "Thank you, Mrs. Sarah. Thank you." And she left. But I sat there on that bench thinking about all the times someone has thanked me, for telling my story, for not hiding it, for not being ashamed of what I lived through, because I understood something important. Our wounds can become medicine for others. Matthew is doing well. He works hard. He still visits Daniel every 2 weeks. The boy is 4 now. He looks just like Matthew did when he was little. Valerie is still in her apartment, still working at the laundromat. But according to Matthew, she's better. She's in therapy. She takes medication for depression. She's learning to be a mother. Do you think she's really changed, Mom? Matthew asked me one night. I don't know, son. But it's not your responsibility to change her. It's hers. You can only be a good father to your children, and you already are. 6 months ago, Matthew met someone. Her name is Patricia. She's an elementary school teacher. Sweet, calm, respectful. He brought her home to meet me. I was nervous. What if she was like Valerie? What if the cycle started all over again? But Patricia walked into the house and the first thing she did was admire my bougainvillea. Mrs. Sarah, they're beautiful. My grandmother had bougainvillea too. She said they were the flowers of strong women. They bloom in any soil. And I knew this time was different. Patricia comes over often. She helps cook. She plays with Chloe. She asks me how I am, really asks. And I don't feel threatened. I don't feel invaded. I just feel family, growing, in a healthy way. Chloe loves her, and that's the most important thing. Grandma, do you think Dad will marry Patricia? I don't know, my girl. Would you like that? Yeah, Patricia is nice. Not like... She stopped. You can say it, Chloe. Not like your mom. She nodded, sadness in her eyes. Why was my mom like that? Grandma? Why was she so mean to you? I sat next to her. I took her hands. Your mom has her own wounds, my girl. Wounds from a long time ago. From her childhood. From her fears. And when someone is wounded and doesn't heal, they hurt other people. Not because they're evil, but because they don't know how not to. Does that excuse her? No, it doesn't excuse her, but it explains her. And understanding isn't the same as forgiving. But it helps let go of the anger. Chloe thought for a moment. Do you hate her? No, I don't waste energy hating her anymore. I'd rather spend it loving you, taking care of my plants, making my coffee, laughing with your dad, living. I want to be like you when I grow up, Grandma. No, my girl. You have to be like you. Better than me. Stronger. Wiser. You don't have to go through what I went through to learn. You can learn from my story and spare yourself the pain. She hugged me, and I felt that everything, absolutely everything, had been worth it. One afternoon a month ago, I was in the yard watering the bougainvillea when I heard someone's voice at the gate. Mrs. Sarah. I turned. It was Valerie. I hadn't seen her up close in years. She was thinner, older, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, no makeup, wearing her work clothes. Valerie, I said, surprised. I'm sorry to come unannounced. I needed to talk to you. My heart beat quickly, but not with fear, with curiosity. Is Matthew here? No, he went out with Chloe. They'll be back in an hour. I'm not here for Matthew. I'm here for you. I opened the gate. I let her in. We sat on the patio under the shade of the bougainvillea. Valerie looked at everything as if it were a strange place. And I guess it was. The last time she was here was when Matthew threw her out. Do you want some water coffee? I asked. No, thank you. I just want to talk. I waited. I know you got my letter. Matthew told me. And I know you didn't answer. And that's okay. I didn't expect you to. Silence. I came because my therapist said I need to close cycles, and the most important cycle is with you. What do you need from me, Valerie? Nothing, she said quickly. I don't need anything. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I am truly sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I've changed. Or at least, I'm trying. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw something different in her eyes. The hardness was gone, the arrogance. There was just tiredness and shame. Valerie, why did you do it? Why were you so cruel? She looked down, fiddled with her hands. Why? Because I was scared. Scared of not being enough. Scared Matthew would leave me. Scared you were better than me. And when I'm scared, I attack. It's the only thing I know how to do. And now I'm learning to be scared without attacking, to feel without destroying. It's hard, but I'm trying. I nodded. I'm glad you're trying, Valerie. I really am. Do you hate me? The question surprised me. No, I don't hate you, but I don't trust you, and we will never be friends. But I wish you well. I hope you heal. I hope you're a good mom to Daniel. I hope you find peace, Valerie cried. No drama, no screams, just silent tears. Thank you, Mrs. Sarah. Thank you for not hating me, because I hate myself enough for the both of us. Then stop. Hating yourself doesn't change the past. It only ruins your future. She wiped her tears. She stood up. I won't bother you again. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. She walked to the gate, but before she left, she turned. Your bougainvillea are beautiful. Thank you. I ripped them all out once, but they grew back, stronger. Valerie understood the message. She nodded, and she left. I don't know if I'll see her again. I don't know if she's really changed. I don't know what the future holds for her. But I know one thing. I've let go. I've closed that chapter. I've forgiven. Not for her, for me. And that is enough. Today, as I write this in my journal. Yes, I have a journal now. My therapist recommended it. I realize how much I've changed. The Sarah from 5 years ago was an invisible woman, a woman who asked for permission to exist in her own home, a woman who made herself small so others could be big. That Sarah died, and in her place another was born, one who knows how to say no, one who sets boundaries, one who isn't afraid to take up space, one who understands that being kind doesn't mean being weak. The cancer didn't kill me, but it transformed me. It forced me to look at my life and ask, is this it? Is this what I want? And the answer was no. So I changed. Not all at once, little by little, with fear, with pain. But I changed. And now when I look in the mirror, I like what I see. A woman with scars, with gray hair, with wrinkles. But a woman who is alive, present, dignified. Yesterday, Chloe came home from school excited. Grandma, we have to do a project on a woman we admire. Can I write about you? My heart swelled. About me? Why? Because you survived cancer. Because you set boundaries. Because you didn't let anyone walk all over you. Because you taught me that women can be strong without being cruel and kind without being weak. The tears streamed down my face. Of course, my girl. Of course you can. And as Chloe asked me questions for her project, when did you know you had cancer? How did you feel when they kicked you out? What did you learn from all of it? I realized something. My pain became a lesson. My wound became medicine. My story became hope. And that changes everything. This morning as I drank my stovetop coffee on the patio, surrounded by my bougainvillea with the sun warming my face and the sound of Chloe laughing inside, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Gratitude. Gratitude for being alive, for having survived, for having found my way back to myself. Gratitude for my son, who, although it took him time, chose what was right. Gratitude for my granddaughter, who reminds me why it's worth moving forward. Gratitude for the neighbors who held out a hand when I was on the curb. Gratitude even for Valerie, because she taught me what I never want to be. And that is an invaluable lesson. And gratitude for you, for whoever is listening to this story. Because if you made it this far, it's because something in my story touched something in yours. And I want you to know something. If you are going through something similar, if someone is making you invisible, if you feel like you are losing your place, your voice, your life, fight back. Don't wait. Don't make yourself small. Don't apologize for existing. Because life is too short and lost. Time never returns. I lost 3 years of my life feeling like a stranger in my own home. 3 years I will never get back. But the years I have left, those are mine. and I'm going to live them with dignity, with joy, with peace. And you can too. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been silent. It is always time to raise your voice. It is always time to reclaim your place. Because when a woman wakes up, when a woman decides she will no longer be invisible, the whole world trembles. And believe me, there is nothing more beautiful than a woman who respects herself. My name is Sarah. I am 62 years old. I survived cancer. I survived cruelty. I survived pain. And I am here, alive, present, flourishing, like my bougainvillea. I ripped them all out, and they grew back stronger, because that's what strong women do. We bloom in any soil, even the most barren. And if my story helped you, if something I said touched your heart, if even one woman who heard me decides to open her eyes and reclaim her place, then it was all worth it. Every tear, every humiliation, every moment of pain. Because in the end, life always collects its debts, and justice always arrives, even if it's late, even if it hurts, even if it's not what we expected. But it arrives. And when it does, when you see how life puts everyone in their place, you won't feel joy. You will feel peace. And that peace is the most valuable thing there is. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change a whole day or a whole life. May you be blessed. May you find your place. May you reclaim your voice. And may you never, ever become invisible. Until next time, my love. And remember, life always collects its debts, but it also gives you flowers. Even if you rip them out, they always grow back.